We're live on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, Sportsnet 360, and Sportsnet Plus. The Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee with you for the next 2 hours. Also on board, Derek Brandale, Jake the Snake Schultz. 5 games on tap. We got a terrific show for you today. We'll get into the in-depth analysis, of course. The Leaf Hour kicking us off here. We'll get into that. And in the second hour, Mike Keenan in studio. Of course, he's got a new book coming out, Iron Mike. As a guy that got a behind-the-curtains glimpse of Mike Keenan in 1994, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. He can't hurt you anymore.
You can't trade me. You can't send me down.
Yeah.
You can't bench me.
You should cut him today. Cut his mic off or something today.
I will say there's been a little different energy about you today.
Kip's ready.
It's been a quiet, I wouldn't say nervousness, but definitely more excited than usual. You could tell from the second you walked through the door,
Listen,
you're acting a little differently.
For like 20 minutes or so in our next hour, I get to talk to like a Lex Luthor, like a criminal mind. I get to talk to like someone like, what made you tick all those years?
This is going to be like Tony Soprano, like therapy here. We're just going to...
Total.
We're going to get to the
Dr.
root of his
Malfi over
feelings. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The time you said, why? What were you thinking?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So we're looking forward to that
equal.
at the top of the hour. But as we mentioned, 5 games on tap, including the Toronto Maple Leafs, who get shut out for the first time in 250 consecutive games. That's a hell of a run to not get shut out.
Yeah. It's just very funny. It's not the reason, but it's very funny to be like 252 straight games with a goal. Berube coaches 1 game and they get shut out. Has nothing to do with Berube, but it is funny. The first game.
227 regular season games and 252 games total, including playoffs, without getting shut out.
Third most in NHL history.
And, first game.
First game with Berube. No goals.
That is remarkable.
Tough luck.
The one thing that I mentioned on a few occasions was an adjustment period for the Leafs, going from Sheldon Keefe to Craig Berube. And I'm just wondering if you saw any signs of that last night, because, again, we're used to a certain style, and a phrase that we often use over the last few years is a team that's trying to outscore their mistakes. It's abundantly clear since Craig Berube took over that he doesn't want to hear that anymore. And it was a game that, with a couple of bounces, they got almost 50 shots on goal, that it could have easily looked to me like a 2-1 win for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which doesn't say that that's the way they won in the past. So, I mean, I'm okay with last night losing 1-0. I'm not overly concerned about losing 2 points to a team that shouldn't make the playoffs, because for me, there is an adjustment period. Did you see any of that, JB?
I did, for sure, particularly on the special teams. But I'll start with just my overview thought from the game, which was, it's fine. I thought they played well. They created, I think it was actually 48 shots. They adjusted it. Posts, crossbars, top line looked great. They created lots of chances. I thought lots there where you play that game over 100 times. They win 95 of them. Not a huge deal to me. Stolarz was awesome. But there were some real adjustments. I thought the penalty kill was horrid. Like, Matthews has not been a penalty killer. I thought there was several times where he didn't sag to the middle where a guy got a clean shot. I thought it just looked like a team figuring out some new systems. Power play, pretty ineffective. So special teams for me looked at like the biggest change that they certainly didn't have a grasp on yet.
Would you like to hear the coach's thoughts on the overview of the game?
Sure.
All right. Let's get Kipper's Clipper number 1 there, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of good things, a lot of shots, but I thought the execution was off. Whether it was a shot, the passing a little bit just wasn't clean enough, in times, power play included. But a lot of good stuff. I mean, when you almost get 50 shots on net and you don't get a goal, their goalie played well. But I was happy with their effort. Guys battled, worked. Stolarz was really good in net. A lot of good things, but we gotta find a way to finish better.
Yeah.
Hasn't been a problem over the years finishing, maybe in the playoffs, but not in the regular season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good point in the playoffs that it has come home to roost. I guess I would say that there was a lack of action at the net. Like they had some kind of one-off chances, but it didn't feel like they were all over Montembeault with screens and traffic and those kind of plays. But
it did, not to do this on game one, but it did feel like a lot of playoff games I've watched Leafs play in, where it's like they don't get to the middle of the ice a ton. Like I don't know what their actual slot shots were. They had a ton of quantity, but that's one of the things we've always talked about with this team when it comes to shots, that the quantity versus quality, it's often, the ratio of that's often off. You look at what Stolarz did last night, I'm sure we'll get into that, but I thought he had the more difficult saves of the two goalies, and he had half the shots that Montembeault faced. But, I did think there were some good things.
Slot shots were 16-9 Toronto.
Really?
Yeah.
16? Okay, I guess. And how many did they end up with? 47? So, yeah, I guess that does kind of fit my theory a bit.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Not that lopsided.
No.
So.
Yeah, both goaltenders, excellent.
Yeah. Montembeault led the NHL in goalie steals last year, according to Sportlogic. This is the thing he does. Like he's pretty good at being the goalie who sees 40 pucks. So thought he played well, and that's not shocking that he did.
Based on what we saw out of Stolarz coming into camp, he's picked up where he's left off, and really, really solid to move forward. And of course, this is coming off of Joseph Woll, the announcement the other day that he would not start for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and now on IR 7 days, Sammy?
Yeah, 7 days.
So, just your overall thoughts on him and how he carried himself and what we could expect as early as tonight going into Saturday against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess right now it's like if Woll's going to be hurt or hurt on and off, can Stolarz be a guy that you can play a lot? Because we just haven't seen that you're able to do it because, boy, you sure trust him. Early returns are great. He made a couple saves where I think early in the third period, the Leafs ran the first 5 minutes of the third. The Leafs just poured it on.
Yeah.
And Stolarz just could have taken a nap. Yeah. And then it was a 2-on-1 down on him. Low blocker. He got a little piece of it. And it's like, those are awkward saves. And for him to show that he could stay in it, even when he wasn't getting a ton of action, great sign. Nothing but positive things to say after game one.
I can't think of a more different looking goalie than Ilya Samsonov than the way that Stolarz looks in net, where it's just, I've watched him play very little for the Leafs, a couple preseason games in this one, but like, I already have like a scary amount of trust in him in terms of just being in the right spots. Like, I think you get him going side to side. That's probably this weak spot. Like, there's a couple times last night where he slipped out a little bit. The goal that beats him, not many goalies are saving that, right? It's cross crease. That's maybe where his weak spots will be, but I like him, boys. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I was really impressed with last night.
Yeah.
Okay, just for the record, coming off of yesterday's show, for me personally, I've heard the word trust twice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I said it a lot yesterday. I haven't said it once today. You've said it already, and you've said it already.
I got too much trust, bud. I got too much trust immediately. I'm a trusting person, though. Very loyal. I trust him.
Let's go to Craig Berube and find out how much he trusts him with his comments on Stolar's performance last night.
Played so well tonight. Would you even consider going back to Stolarz?
Well, it's something we got to discuss here, and we will do that, and we'll make a decision.
Yeah, that's just on him playing tomorrow.
Okay.
He didn't.
Do we think that, have we heard yet whether they're going to do the Hildebeest tonight or not?
So, Berube speaking around 4:45 pregame. I'm sure we'll get the lowdown then.
Okay.
But
now, you play head coach or general manager based on last night facing the New Jersey Devils tonight in a game that you are the underdog in.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? JB, you go first.
I think you got to play Hildeby. Not because it's not about Stolarz at all. Well, I should say not at all. But if Hildeby's going to be your third guy, you have to show that you can play him. It's a back-to-back. He had a great performance last night. You don't want to see him kind of, spend himself too early. And so I think you're saying to Hildeby, we trust that you can go in the net. Sheldon Keefe didn't trust him last year. We trust that you can. It makes me nervous, but I think you got to see at least, right? They're not going with Matt Murray, so they must trust this guy a little bit. Trust.
Hildaby, obviously. There's no other option to me. Like, you're going to potentially put this strain on him in game 2 against a really good team, travel, second half of back-to-back, just look great on the first. There's just, you can't, I know the Keefe thing's an added dynamic where you want to beat Keefe and the whole, that part of it. But you kind of have to look past that and just, I think, protect Stolarz a little bit here and obviously go Hildaby. You feel like you're going the other way.
No.
No?
I'm with you guys.
Okay.
I think that the game plan all along had been for no goalie to see a back-to-back to start the season.
Yeah, right.
And that shouldn't change because Joseph Woll is out for a week. So I'm with you that I don't want Stolarz to go in there, play really, really well, and be forced now to start him Saturday if, in fact, he plays really well, but they lose 3-2.
Yeah.
Or they lose 2-1 again, or they lose 1-0 like they did last night, and he faces 30, 40 shots, and he's great, but now I got to go back to him in my home opener, and make no mistake about it, that they need teams protect the home opener. Mm-hmm. That is your first glimpse to your season ticket holders, to your fan base, to the sponsors. It needs to be a good showing.
Yeah, the Habs cracked out the cellos last night, so we had to sit there for an hour and a half to watch, a concert before the game started.
I'll just
Good
say
Lord,
this on the Montreal Canadiens presentation. If I watch that with any other organization, I'm like, they can get away with it.
Oh,
somehow.
You know what?
Some way, the Montreal Canadiens can get away with. Am I going to the sympathy or am I going to the opening of an NHL game?
They should have had them come out and huff their own farts after that ceremony too, so we could really just get the whole experience.
You just got to be a 500 hockey team. The year before.
I sent out a snarky tweet about it, and the replies to my tweet, I was just looking on my couch laughing. Like I was tears in my eyes.
They can get away with it.
Somebody tweeted me, said they treat the start of a 30-win season like a royal wedding. Woll might be ready to go by the time the ceremony's over. There's a lot of stuff going on. It was great. It was too long.
So are we good on the goalies, on Stolarz here? And what we thought there?
Yeah, just again, the expectations from everything I'm hearing is that there's not a huge concern over Joseph Woll.
Okay.
So I think what we're dealing with Joseph Woll is something of, it happens through a hard training camp, and Craig was hard on them. And a lot of people think an ankle, knee, just tweaked something that you usually do after a hard training camp, and it's not an overly big concern. My guess, groin.
Yeah. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You just give him the week here, and then hopefully he's 100% fine, and you don't have to cure anything with a pound of whatever it is. He should be fine. He'll be fine.
It's going to be fine.
It's fine.
I mean, there's no reason. There's no reason to worry.
It's fine.
You trust that he'll be back, right?
Everything's great.
You'll trust. You trust.
Yes.
That's where the word trust kind of dries up a little bit in our show right now. Let's just get him back in, and hopefully he hits a long stretch of games.
Initial takeaways from that game. I mentioned I didn't love the special teams, right? That's early.
Okay, but we got to touch on that.
You want to touch on that first? Because I also think
the power play.
Sure. You want to start there?
Yeah,
all right.
I do.
Let's make sure I get to my next thing. Sure. Forget it.
Didn't look much different than Guy Boucher's. I'm lots of FaceTime for Marc Savard, but I had no sense of Marc Savard's fingerprints being all over a power play that kind of looked like it has the last few years, where it's good. It's a good power play.
It's been good, very good.
But it's been really bad when you needed it the most.
Super bad.
Extremely awful.
1 for 21.
That's all.
Year.
So I don't care what the stats say. I don't care top whatever during the regular season. When you need this power play the most, it has let you down. And it did last night.
Yeah.
That's what I saw out of the power play.
So what do you want to see different? Do you want to see different structure, formation, personnel?
Can I ask you two something? This is something I noticed, and if you're going to do the loaded up unit and the clear B unit, you don't do an even split with the ice.
It had to be. I think PP2 got more ice time than PP1 last night.
Like, if you're going to do the split in time, do you not split up the stars?
This is really tough because I understand what he wants to do. He wants to establish a second power play, and he wants to push and challenge the other guys. You don't want them to get fat and lazy to think they're going to get their 150 all of 2 minutes on the power play. You got to create and create all these cookie monsters. So you got to create an internal competition.
But it's not one, right? It's like Nick Robertson's not
It's
in
not
competition
really
with Willie
one.
Nylander.
And I suppose that if they get a little more frustrated and they start squeezing a little bit more, they'll stay out there longer.
Yeah, probably.
But I get it. I get it. Like Nick Robertson's come off a very good training camp where he saw power play time when the big boys weren't there, but now the big boys are there, and you don't want to disrespect his training camp by all of a sudden giving him 10 seconds on a power play.
I thought last night was the training camp respecter game. Berube was the training camp respecter. With the lineup, like, Robertson and Pacioretty are in, McMahon's out. They didn't love McMahon's camp. Robertson, you couldn't deny his camp. So he gets to be in. Pacioretty committed to be there. Before in the summer, I'm sure they committed to him. He gets to be in. As you mentioned, they get power play time because they had good camps, yada, yada. A lot of good camp stuff last night. I don't know that in reality it's the best idea. Like, Bobby McMahon's going to play tonight, and I haven't seen anyone say that, but I am just so sure that that's going to be the case. I'm sure power play 1 is going to get more time. There's a lot of training camp respect last night with the way they used that lineup, I thought.
It felt to me like the way it's not like last year, so we're going to pull the stars off with a minute left in the power play. It's different this time. It's different, but if you're just going to keep all those guys together, then just leave them out there for a minute 40.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just going to go the way of not splitting it up, it just seemed counterintuitive to pull them off the ice and put on 5 worse players.
The problem with that, Sammy, is that you start leaning towards Team A and Team B.
Well,
That's the start.
It still is.
I know
but
it
is
is.
the sport not like that now? Are most teams not like that?
Eventually, it will get to that.
Yeah.
But you're trying to be respectful to the whole lineup. That's all.
That is the effort
You're trying
this
to
year
bring
they
everybody
want,
together over 20 minutes. And, Nick, do you have the time, on ice time of the power play?
No.
Okay.
But I can get it. And I
would assume that the second unit wasn't that far off from Matthews and Marner.
I would not be shocked if they played marginally more by a few seconds or something. Yeah.
So, there's a big difference between doing that in game 1 and then doing that a week or 2 from now when you're on a 3-game losing streak and the big boys
need it.
They're goalless.
Yeah. So we don't have actual power play time on ice where I'm looking, but I'll find that.
It doesn't really matter, but we do know that it was
close. It's close than it usually is. That's for sure.
Fairly balanced, at least from the eye test.
Yep, absolutely. And the ice time deployment in general is pretty similar to how it always is. Marner 22-39, Matthews 22 or 21.
Just
whatever.
Again, for me, it just seems like they don't start a good rotation off the top. And not to make this on Morgan Rielly, but Morgan Rielly's out there, and he just doesn't seem to be able to find different looks to trying to get a puck to the net or drawing people in and then starting a rotation. It just seems like it's a little too flat-footed for me.
To me, they don't pass it.
There's not movement.
If you don't move the puck around, you don't make the PK change shape. And if you don't make them change shape, you don't create seams, and then you just end up passing it around the outside. Can I shoot it? Can I shoot it? You try again. Can you shoot it? I mean, it's got to be some quicker puck movement for sure. And I will say, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, watching him last night during 5-on-5 play in particular, I don't remember a Leafs D-man being as involved in the offense as he was every shift.
Paul Maurice loved the way Oliver Ekman-Larsson is able to get pucks.
Through to the net. He's up the ice. He had a ton of touches.
He thinks he's one of the best at it.
Yeah.
Was it him that filtered that one that Montembeault didn't see and it hit the
low
post?
post.
Yeah, like it was a centimeter from going in. he did find it
That
a
was
few
probably the
times
closest
like that.
to an actual
Yeah.
goal, and I don't know that it registered much during the
Yeah.
game.
Where are you on the bumper position? Because my first thought with Matthews, Marner, Nylander, or Tavares, that it's Morgan, two flanks on the opposite side, and one guy down low as an outlet. I mean, are you a bumper guy?
So right
So-
now,
sometimes
I
I
think
see-
of it as
sometimes-
Riley up top, Marner on one side, Matthews on the other, and then Willie and
Yeah.
JT. JT's net front. Willie mostly bumper, but I never see Willie.
Sometimes Marner gets into that bumper position, and I think he gets lost.
They never get a shot there. Or, it doesn't seem like that. They don't move it enough to open up that center of the ice. So I don't know. It hasn't been an effective. I bet if you went back and looked at all their power play goals from last season, you'd see very few that were a quick one touch to the bumper goal type of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not sure. It's going to be interesting to see Mark Savard takes it over. Is anything going to change, or is
Yeah.
it just going to be what it's been?
Another thing that I asked you guys, but wasn't there like a lot of hard line talk and hard training camp and all this stuff with like getting the pucks in and a little bit more dump and chase? And then I watched their first power play, and they're all just spin and dropping. It's like, I thought maybe that they would try a one dump.
Different breakout. Yeah.
Just one time. I know every team does it, but like when you hear them talk about it throughout the training camp of it being a more dump and chase sort of harder nosed team, the dropbacks in the power play in the game one not working, it's like, oh my God, tough pill to swallow immediately.
Yeah. No, it's, I don't know if that means special teams when they're talking about dumping the puck in, but yeah, it didn't look like anything was any different anywhere.
Looked exactly the same.
As far as the big boys were concerned, we saw a crossbar backhand by Matthews,
Mhm.
but Marner, Nylander, Tavares, still the core four up front.
Mm.
Your
Same lineup.
your thoughts on their overall night?
Well, I guess a little disappointing that the lineup is just the way it's always been. Nothing looked any different. I thought Willie had the puck a ton. Matthews robbed with a glove save and hits a crossbar. I don't know how many shots or shot attempts he had last night, but he was all over the puck, 6 shots. One thing, the most interesting conversation I had via text during the game, Bunkus texted me. He said, "Who are the 3 fastest players in the Leafs?" And I said, Nylander, and then you really start
Robertson.
to grind. Yeah, you think? Maybe.
Mhm.
But the point being, it's kind of tough to do the list. Like, it's not that they don't have some good skaters, but they're not a fast team.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be fast, but watching that last night, it felt, I don't know, like Bobby McMahon should be in. He's probably their next fastest guy, and he's a big body.
The guy that jumped out to me last night, if I was going to say one of the stars or whatever concerned me, the conversation we usually have at the start of the year, and we've done this for 3 years now, is Tavares. In the first few games, we're always like, oh my God, Tavares is shot out of a cannon to start the season. He's really skating well. He's been working with Barb. Is he moving fast? Didn't see that last night. Thought he was fumbling the puck a lot. I just didn't think he had a very good game. Thought that he looked pretty noticeably slow playing last night.
Yeah.
Don't know if you guys thought the same, but I
didn't notice
it
him. I
jumped
thought
out.
Holmberg was
Well,
pretty unimpressive at 3C.
It's just at now age 34 and so much talk about the last few years of bringing in Willie Nylander at center and pushing him back. You had to go back to him to start the season for, again, whatever reason that you weren't comfortable with going any further with Willie Nylander in the middle of the ice. But the trajectory is that he does now struggle 5-on-5. Like he's still smart enough to get points on the power play, and we saw him a couple of chances in deep where he couldn't find the open side, but
he'll get some goals there doing that.
He's going to get his cookies.
Yeah,
he's going to get his points on
but
the
he's
power
not
play.
driving the offense into the zone.
But as far as 5-on-5 as a second centerman, it's a concern.
Yeah. I don't like that line at all.
No, agree.
Is it Domi, Tavares, Nylander? I don't like that at all.
No.
One thing that stands out to me a little bit is like if you're going to put Nyes with Marner and Matthews, those 3 together, they better get 2 goals a night.
Marner made a great play behind the net.
Yep.
And Nyes, I'm not sure, was handcuffed or not ready,
Yeah.
but he had a glorious opportunity. And I think he fanned on the puck.
He also dropped one to Marner that was just, Marner wasn't there. I liked Nyes last night, like in terms of like he outmuscled people and he won pucks, but I just think he's better suited on that second line is where I'm going.
Haven't we had this conversation about him deferring when he plays in the top?
Yeah.
Like-
He's been better without those guys.
Can I say that you saying that to me after game one tells me they got some issues on the left side.
Yeah, we're 3 years into this conversation, and that doesn't make it any less valid.
But Matthew Nyes was a lock.
But he's a lock. He's their
He's a
best
lock.
left winger.
He's a lock.
He is their best
You're telling
winger.
me now that he's their best left winger, and you want to move him down in the lineup.
Well, Kip,
That's
you don't have to have your best players together. You know
so.
that.
Who's going up there? Domi?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Don't let Domi set up Matthews for a couple more shots. Domi can play with skill guys, right? He can make those sauce passes. He can see the play like an elite player. Domi drives me nuts in the 4-year contract. Not sure, but he can play with elite players. Let's just see it. Otherwise, there's not a ton at left wing.
There's not. Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you because the options, there are not many options out there.
No.
So I get that.
Like Nick Robertson's not going to work. He's a solo mission guy.
The left side is missing a locked-in horse right now, and Nyes will be that guy we think eventually, but he's still young. He's still learning. He's still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think even if he was on the second line with Willie and you had Domi play center there, or you had something else in the middle with those guys, you need to find a second line that can control play, be on the right side of possession. Last year, Willie and JT together lost their minutes in terms of shot attempts, which is insane.
I don't think it's a question of Nyes' ability or like his size, and like you said, what he was doing last night.
I loved a lot of his game last night.
It's just the way he thinks of himself with those two guys. It feels like he thinks that he has to defer, that he's not the man on that line, that he has to play this certain role, that he's better than the role that he's playing on that line.
He needs to make better decisions with the puck. That's what Matthew.
But I think it's related to what he's saying, where it's like it's Matthews and Marner.
He's overthinking
it. I get to play with them rather than sometimes shoot it, sometimes make your own reads.
Yeah.
Not just trying to facilitate for those guys necessarily.
Fourth line.
Great.
Yeah.
Really good shift.
Yeah. Steven Lorentz looked like Rick Nash last night.
Steven Lorentz
he was
great.
I know it's early, but Lorentz to me is a guy that stick him up there with if not. No, I'm telling you, he can go up and down the lineup. He can go and play with Matthews or Marner for a shift or two.
But that's the Hyman or and Matthews has had those guys. He played with the guy that go get the puck and stand in front of the net.
All I'm saying is that he's good enough that he can move, for me, up and down the lineup.
He's got more pace than I thought when they signed him.
He can get around.
Yeah, he can move around.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
You like him?
Yeah, I do.
But I thought the one difference in Craig Berube coaching from Sheldon Keefe that was most evident to me was a trust in a fourth line, where I think they started the third period, or maybe didn't start the third period, but they were out there early.
It came out of a
TV timeout with 8 minutes left down a goal. They went with that line, and that line was awesome. Almost scored a goal. Like, he showed real trust in those guys. And what did Lorentz wears 18? He played 9 minutes last night, but he had 4 shots, 3 hits, and a blocked shot in 9 minutes. Those are good minutes.
He was so excited to play that game.
Yeah, he was.
If we stay on the left side, Pacioretty drew a couple penalties, I think. And
I actually liked him. I thought he had a good night.
I think
you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I got no issues with him. But, long term, is this the Pacioretty you're going to see? A guy going out there finishing checks and
who did he
driving hard to the net
late in the third period?
Hit someone hard.
Hammered somebody.
Hammered someone
kind of
up
high.
He made the pass to Matthews with 10 seconds left. He had some good looks. No problem with him last night.
Is that the Pacioretty we're going to see all season long? Or just a guy that goes into Montreal and
fired up.
Well,
this is
season
the
opener.
Tavares thing where it's like, in the past you've had a good few games and it's just the ability to sustain that. But certainly when I'm talking about the lineup tonight, I'm not looking at Pacioretty and going, is that a guy we want in there? Like, I thought he was great. He played 13 and a half minutes. But he had 4 hits, 2 shots. Those are useful minutes for me.
This is definitely a guy that, if you want the pessimistic prediction, is that he could have a really great October here, where, like you said, he shot out of a cannon, new opportunity, and then he kind of moves his way up the lineup. And then because of him being a veteran, he sticks up too long and he starts to fade a little bit. And then people start to turn on him a bit, as how I could see that going. But for the last night and going forward here, I think he looks pretty good. So,
yep, good start. Good start.
Okay, we'll take a quick break.
yeah, I forget who the Leafs are playing tonight. They're playing somebody.
The Devils.
The Devils.
Whose coach is that? Who coaches them?
We get Kyper's Clippers with Sheldon Keefe.
Do we have Kipper's Clipper with Sheldon Keefe
We have
back?
4 Kippers
Four.
Clippers, and boy, are they long.
They're
Wow.
gonna take us
Right
to the next hour.
Right to Mike Keenan.
Yeah.
All right. As I said, next hour, Mike Keenan will join us in studio to talk about his book with Scott Morrison, Iron Mike. That and more when we return to Real Kipper and Bourne. The first of a handful of, I think, back-to-back games for the Toronto Maple Leafs starting tonight in New Jersey.
They got 5 by the end of November, I think.
And they will see a very fast hockey club
Probably the
in New
fastest in the
Jersey.
league. I mean, just saying there's a chance. There's a chance they could get killed tonight. There's a chance. They got Hildeby in net, quite likely. They're off a back-to-back. The Devils are 2-0, flying. Keefe is hungry. Home opener. Fired up to get their, get a win against the Leafs. There's a chance.
Sammy, I didn't get a chance to go through the Kippers Clippers of Sheldon Keefe, but I would imagine he is just absolutely dripping with compliments for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh,
You've
dripping.
it's nothing but.
Okay. Would you like to start with Keefe clip number 1? Keefe clip number 1, please, Derek.
I don't know what to make of it. I've never been in this situation before. We'll see when we get out there and the game gets going. But what does it mean to me? Not a lot, quite honestly. I mean, I got nothing but love from the people that are on the other side. And tremendous respect for everybody in the organization that treated me so well and the players that gave me so much. So to that end, it's going to be strange being on the other side. But for us, it's our home opener. It's my first time in front of the Devils fans. So in that sense, I'm more focused on that. It's a little bizarre that the Leafs are coming in here, obviously, but other than the fact that we've got a lot to prepare for because it's a very good team to play against, and I'm on the other side now and getting a sense of what other teams have had to contend with, and dealing with what's been a top 5 or top 10 team in the regular season over the last number of years. So that's what my focus.
God, does he like to talk?
It's amazing. We're so back.
What's been exposed is how little we worked the last 3 years. We just turned on Keefe clips.
What was he even talking?
We go get a coffee.
My eyes were
Got a
crossing.
paycheck from this show.
He didn't do anything. He didn't do a video by the Hudson River today, did he? Do anything and put it on Instagram?
I don't think so.
He had another clip on guys that reached out to him from the Leafs. Would you like to hear that? Keefe clip 3, please, Derek.
Yeah, I had good opportunities to chat with them. They were nice enough to reach out, and most of the guys, whether it's phone calls or text messages. So that was great. And like I said, I got nothing but love and respect to the people on the other side. I leave Toronto disappointed that I wasn't able to help them, push through in the playoffs. But I do think that the team's in a really good place. Love the moves that Tree made in the offseason, and I think that the team is as good as it's ever been, and I wish them nothing but the best. And as I say, nothing but love and respect for them.
Was that 4 or 5 love and respects?
A lot of love and respect.
Listen,
But if they help me line my jeans with the money he's making right now, I'd love them too.
Yes. I mean, that's exactly what he should say, right? Pure respect for the people from the game before. You want him to come out and be like, air all his bitterness?
It's fine. I'm okay with it.
But there's lingering resentments for certain things, and he's being the bigger man and not saying.
Where do you think the resentment is the most?
Getting fired, probably.
Wow.
Yeah, probably getting kicked in the butt out of the door.
This is the best team that they've had, better than anything they gave me. Is that what he said in there too?
He did too, but that also, I think, is self-protection, right? If they go win the cup or something, he gets to be like, well, I didn't know that. Right? You get to protect yourself if they do have success.
I don't know if it's the first thought in his head.
No. What do you think it is then? Just that
No,
I
that
didn't
it's
get
like
to have-
I could have used more help, I think.
Maybe it's part of it.
I don't think he cares. I think he looks at his lineup right now and goes,
Yeah, baby.
this team didn't have a goalie last year. They went out and got a goalie in Markstrom, and who's behind him? They two new goalies, I think.
What's that? Markstrom and Jake Allen.
Jake Allen. That's right.
He had some comments, Keefe did, about how some of the, not flaws or issues or whatever, but some of the challenges with the Leafs are, when he first came around, are similar to the ones he has with the Devils now. They're not a particularly big, strong, mean team. They're not a particularly defensive-focused team. They are small, fast.
I had that clip isolated, and it was 1 minute and 53 seconds, so I decided.
Yeah, that's fine. We don't need
decided not.
2-minute clips on that. But the point is, he, I think, looks at his current lineup and says, been down this road and seen how it ends. How do I fix it?
If I'm Heischer and Hughes and Bratt, and I watch the way the Leafs put points up and score goals and kind of had that freewheeling kind of, like, I'd be excited to pad my stats.
Yeah.
Like, he never played big. The emphasis wasn't finishing your checks.
No.
It was not.
No. But it is one of the biggest misconceptions of the Keefe era Leafs is that they were, as you said earlier in the show, a outscore your problems. They were a great defensive team not last year.
They had a real good stretch.
Yeah.
Last year in the playoffs, they were unbelievable defensively.
Yeah.
Like
in the 2 years prior, they were top 5 or whatever in the NHL and like expected goals against and real goals against, top 10.
But he just couldn't get them to play that way consistently or have it part of their identity.
I agree. Yeah, their identity was always the core four, and they score a lot. And then they don't score in the playoffs, and then that becomes an identity where people laugh at them.
Well, I mean, you watched the Amazon thing that just went out. Like, they had Keefe up there saying the same thing as we were on the air, being like, hey, middle of the ice, get there.
Yeah.
Put pressure on their goalie. Like, he was, like, saying these things to them. I bet you if one of us sat down to have a cold, frothy beverage with Sheldon Keefe, he wouldn't, do it to one of us because then we would talk about it. But to a friend, he'd probably have a lot of resentment towards some of the stars.
Well, I think so.
I do. It's like my reputation is this guy that can't get out of the first round because every big game I coached in, none of my stars could get me a big goal. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sure he does have some resentment towards the Leafs stars. How could you not?
For sure. It's like being a coach who didn't win the Super Bowl because someone missed wide right. Like had they not, maybe you win a Super Bowl.
A laundry list of things he would have liked to seen differently. They all have them, and in a few minutes we'll hopefully get Mike Keenan in here in the next hour and maybe talk about that because he went toe to toe with the general manager at the time in New York, Neil Smith, and Keenan probably had much more luck or influence in getting the players he wanted to try to win right away. And obviously there was a tug of war between him and Neil Smith, but Neil eventually got them the players that he wanted. Not every coach has that. Sheldon didn't have that last year. And, right. A lot of coaches just don't have that type of power. But I'm sure there's a lot of changes Sheldon would have liked to have made and probably just didn't have, the backup from Brendan Shanahan or at the time, maybe even Kyle. I don't know.
I'm sure that once Kyle left and Sheldon was still here, all of whatever cachet he would have had to make such requests was pretty much nil, right? Like that becomes a tree team, a shanty team. Mm-hmm. And I do think that some of the decisions that were made in the last year here were out of his hands and maybe came from higher than him, where he just said, you got to play this guy or this is what we're doing. And he just tried to be the facilitator. And so, again, probably some resentment.
Did you guys look at what his all-time record was with the Leafs? Did you look at that on the lineup, Kyper, or no? Can I give it to you?
Yeah, give it to me.
212, 97, and 40. For
not even 100 losses here.
For a 622 winning percentage. Well, not 97 regulate. No 100 regulation wins.
I get it, but like
622.
I know, but he was also gifted.
I know.
Two of the highest scoring Leaf players in history, right?
Yeah.
points per game, and like
For sure. He had tools to have success.
walked right into it.
Yep.
So did Kyle.
Yep.
But just couldn't find the secret sauce to put it all together.
Right. So heading into tonight, he would have some insight into the way these guys play. And I text Sam this last night, but I am curious to see what the Devils come out and play like, because if he thought that this team was soft, that they back down or whatever, you'd think he would tell his guys to go attack them. Would you not?
Okay.
Like dress
what-
McDermott,
Oh,
go at them, lay the body.
but your core guys got to buy into that.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean?
Is Nico Hischier
so
going to...
Jack Hughes, go attack them. What does that mean? I'm going to outskate them. I'm going
No,
to.
it doesn't have to
right?
be your core guys like that.
No, it does. It does. They're the ones that have to set the tone, and then others follow. They're the leaders. Attacking means it's got to start with your top guys.
Right, but it wouldn't be Connor McDavid who does it. It'd be Evander Kane who does it for the Oilers, right?
Did you see Connor finishing his checks last year? And come on, he's hitting guys.
You don't think
You can't ask guys to do it if you're not willing to do it yourself.
So for you, if Sheldon thinks that this team is soft,
Yeah.
is there anything he would tell his guys to take advantage of that? Or do you think he would just skip it because Bratt and Hughes
I don't know. It could be getting Marner's face, getting Matthews' face. They don't like confrontation outside of maybe a one-on-one battle with the puck, but they don't like scrums. They don't like
talk to him after the whistle. And so I'm curious if
does
he
New Jersey
instructs his
have
guys.
does New Jersey have that lineup
Not
though,
really.
JB?
No.
So to my point, who's
Hischier, Palat, Holla, Nason, Cotter, Lazar, Bastian.
This is a fast lineup.
Bastian will do
just
Fast lineup.
they're in many ways kind of Sheldon's going to go out there and just try to outskate them, outskill them.
Mm-hmm. Brendan Dillon's a large animal, but yeah, no, they don't have a ton.
Dillon
there.
could challenge.
Yep. Yeah, but I am curious to see if they try to take advantage of that somehow. I'd like to see how he wants to expose the Leafs, like Matthews in particular. We do have a clip of how to slow.
Okay, so yeah,
How do you slow down Austin Matthews?
Take the puck away from him, make him defend, minimize your mistakes and get some love from the crossbars if we can, like last night.
Yeah. Hope he hits the post. That's our plan, to defend.
Yeah. So, sorry, go ahead.
Make him defend. Make him defend, I think, is the point there.
So, in and out tonight, if you're the Leafs, going into game 2 here.
Right. Who is out that's available outside of Bobby McMahon? Is there anyone that's... Because everyone's on the IR. Dewar's on the IR.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of forwards.
I guess it's more of a defensive question. It's like,
Yeah.
Because, Connor Timmins last night, I thought, had a couple moments of somewhat good moments, but there's a lot of stuff that you watch him, you're like, God,
Yeah.
it's not the most, but at least he's doing something out there.
I wonder if, since we've been on the air, there's been some announcements or whatever. Daily Faceoff has McMahon on the fourth line with Lorentz and Camp instead of Ryan Reeves. And since there's no McDermott, that would make a lot of sense to me. I'm surprised he doesn't like McMahon more. You're going to play fourth line. Pacioretty, Holmberg, Robertson was fine, so maybe he just didn't want to mess up that line or didn't want to shake up any other lines.
There's always, when you fall in love with other players, someone's going to pay the price for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's McMahon. Kempf, to me, took a hit last night.
I thought he stunk.
Well, he just didn't have a presence.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like every time there was maybe a key face-off, Holmberg's the guy, not Kemp.
But even Holmberg wasn't great. Like, their bottom two line centers, I thought were pretty unimpressive last night. I do think McMahon's going to rise in his player ranking.
So I asked the question where there is an answer. Reeves is coming out tonight and Bobby McMahon is playing.
Reeves out.
Yeah.
McMahon in.
Yep. And that is the only change.
Why don't we listen to the final Keefe clip we have on what he expects from the home opener tonight?
Very excited. The one preseason game we played here, I know we played two, but the first preseason game that I was here for, I can't remember what night of the week that was, but that one in particular, just in the early going, even just announcing the players in the starting lineup, and for a preseason game, it was loud, and and intense and all of that. So I'm excited here for tonight to get a taste of it on this side and hope we get through it without them throwing anything at us like I was here a few years ago.
Did they get things thrown at them?
Yes. You don't remember that game? Matt Murray in net? And there was like, he kicked a goal off and there's like 3 different disallowed goals. And then they started throwing, I don't know what it was. It was like a giveaway night. I don't know.
And here come the pretzels.
But they started whipping stuff on the ice and it was a wild scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
We'll see. Dougie Hamilton had a major injury last year. He's back. I mean, he's for me, he's the last couple of years prior to his injury, he's been one of these guys where he's quietly become a very, very good defenseman.
Yeah, he's only 31 years old.
And
he's 6'6", 230.
I'm looking forward to watching his presence for the New Jersey Devils tonight.
Yeah, he's had 50-point seasons, 22 goals one year, 17 goals, 18 goals. Like he's
Type of guy that's on Team Canada radar.
yeah.
Like he's that echelon of guy for sure. So yeah, it'd be interesting though.
That'll be a big deal to get him back for the Devils. So yeah, we'll get some. We didn't get any update on the goaltender yet, though. We're still waiting for that information. Yeah. So those are the key stories to watch tonight. The special teams will be interesting to see if anything changes. And then the defense lineup. That Liljegren's not even coming in for game 2. Not sure if you saw this. Elliott in 32 Thoughts said that Liljegren. Sounds like Toronto's working to find a landing spot for Timothy Liljegren. He's down the depth chart, not a situation anyone is happy with. And I just got to say, I have not been a big booster of Liljegren, but you can't get rid of him just to get rid of him, right?
The road.
And he's not happy being the depth guy. Okay, sorry. We'll call you when we need you. Like it's not.
Yeah.
And from
that's pro hockey.
I think Liljegren's the type of guy that you got to package. I think there needs to be something bigger than just
Liljegren and a second for here's a real player. No, I mean not. I don't mean real. That's too disrespectful.
I'm just curious to see where this Nick Robertson thing goes because I know the power play time was a better balance for him. He saw more power play time during a regular season game than he has in a long time. But when it was all said and done, it still for me looked like Nick Robertson of last year. Mm-hmm. 10 to 12 minutes, and
didn't create anything.
That's it.
Sold. I'm sold. I like this idea.
Quickly before we go to break, intrepid reporter Luke Fox has tweeted out that Dennis Hildeby is, in fact, starting tonight.
Yeah.
The Hildebeest.
So there's something to watch for.
Bring in the beast.
He's
in
another
New Jersey against
big
the Devils.
guy.
I'm just really hoping it's not, what was that kid's name that got lit up for 7 against the Kaskasuo or
Kaskasuo, yeah.
Casimir Kaskasuo?
He's a YouTuber now.
Really?
Yeah.
Good
He's
for him.
Also actively, he was at the Bruins camp as their 6th goalie, but he's got like an active YouTube page.
Huh.
So shout out to him. He was a good Marley when I was there.
There you go. So Hildebeest tonight, boys.
All right. What do you think? give me a prediction.
You know, they tend to bounce back well. I think he goes to overtime tonight. I'll say the Leafs win. The hell with it.
Wow.
I said they might get killed. They might. But I'll say they win 3-2 in overtime.
The results tonight will likely be extreme regardless of what happens.
Win or lose by 4? No, I'm saying overtime.
We had a lot of goals last night for a night where Matthews got shut out, McDavid got shut out,
Draisaitl got shut out.
Draisaitl got shut out.
Yeah.
All
Sid.
right. Mike Keenan when we return. Iron Mike. My life behind the bench. Don't go away. Here we go. It's the National Hour on Real Kyper and Bourne. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. As promised, Mike Keenan, 15th winningest coach in NHL history. Stanley Cup champion with the Rangers and now an author of Iron Mike, My Life Behind the Bench with Scott Morrison. Welcome in, Coach Keenan. How are you?
Kipper. Super. How about you?
I'm good.
Thank
I'm
you.
good. Listen, I'm excited about you coming in as you go through your tour for your book. You're gonna have many people interviewing you, but how many that got to play with you or have you as a coach?
You're the only one.
This is it.
I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing for you right now.
I think it's all right.
I'm dying to find out. I mean, this is great for me, and I'm fully entertained. Thank you very much for joining us today. An incredible life in the NHL. I before Kip gets into his questions, I just got to know, what was it like coaching Nick Kypreos? Can I not start there?
Oh my God.
He was easy to coach, actually.
Was he?
Yes. He
Oh,
was
he's not
very.
like that now.
He is very respectful of his teammates, and was a big part of our team. I could say that about Kyper, but also we had a team that a group of hockey players that really respected each other. They all bought in. I didn't have anybody that was really a complainer, or lots of guys wanted to play more, but nobody was a distraction, put it that way.
The sense that I had out of you in the short period that we had together was that, you know, you've had some of the toughest guys in the history of the game play for you, right? And if you want to go back to Philadelphia, from Dave Brown to Rick Tocchet to Joey Kosher for us, Gino Ojic in Vancouver. I mean, you're
a few in Chicago.
In Chicago. The tendency, I think,
And
for you.
St. Louis.
And St. Louis, Chaser and
Twister.
Oh, my God. But you tended to kind of leave us alone. You didn't mess with the tough guys too often. Did you feel like you didn't have to? Because obviously the challenge for a coach, especially with your style, was to maybe have more of a confrontation with your star players.
I don't know if the star players, but I'll leave them alone, because I knew that they were preparing themselves. If anybody on the team was, they were. Because that's a tough role.
I had a fight with Chris Simon at Madison Square Garden one night, and after the game, I'm getting stitched up because he
Nailed
cut
you.
me, but
Yep.
he nailed me with one. But it was a good fight for me, and you made it. You made it. Abundantly clear that you came into the room. You were with me when the doctor stitched me up. You patted me on the back. You loved it, and I'm like, oh my God, he noticed me.
I've done something I need to do again.
The book. Tell me what it was like for you to go back, and Justin and I have written books as well, so we kind of
By
understand.
the way, I have your book on my counter.
Oh, do
at
you?
home. Yeah.
All
I
right.
do. So-
Thanks. Just the whole process for you, for, going back and peeling the onion back, and, now you've got a magnifying glass. You're starting to remember stories, just the whole process for you. How did you find it?
It was a long, tedious process. I was hesitant to start the book because I said, who really wants to read some of this? And it started with Jay Greenberg. Jay Greenberg, God bless him, died of all things West Nile disease. And then Scott Morrison was editing the book. So I asked Scott, would you pick it up? But it took a while. He wanted to reshape it a little bit and certainly write it in his style, which is different than Jay's. And Jay was the fellow that I talked to initially because he was a beat writer in Philadelphia in '84. And he said, one day I want to write a book with you. I said, okay. Not thinking I'd ever write a book. And so that's the process. So as you go through it, it's interesting. Even yesterday, I went to dinner with Scott and Mike Polino, Dave Jameson, who played for me, and Jameson brought up a story about Boston Bruins. I said, Scott, did we put that in the book? He said, no. I said, oh my God, that's a good story. Yeah. But I forgot all about it. So when you're trying to recall your life over, and then your personal life, and then your professional life over that period of time, 5 decades of coaching, you miss a few things, but you do at the same time unfold things that you say, oh, why did I do that? Mm-hmm. Or I could have done that better, or, oh, that was really good. So it's a process that is a thorough process, and kudos to Scott because he just kept poking the bear.
Yeah.
And, asking for more and more. And I don't know if you read the introduction from Mess. That was incredible.
Yeah. Oh, no, I've been through the book.
Yeah, he was pretty generous.
I liked the start of the book. To those I've pissed off or disappointed, I meant well. Who are the people that you think about when you made that comment?
Well, there's a lot of times my impatient self took over, and I could have been more patient in the process and probably had the same results. But it's a result-oriented business, and the immediacy of it to win every night is the expectation. And when I first came in, I had a real strong feeling that I owed the owner something because he hired me. Mm. And then you get into the process with the players, and the players owe you, or don't owe you. You owe them the guidance, but I felt we all owed the owner until you get into getting fired and negotiating, and then how tough it is to deal sometimes with the owners. So I shifted my thinking a little bit, but there were times that I thought I could handle. And I'll give you a specific example. Is Brett Hull. Brett Hull didn't want to coach. He was the first to mention after we've had a nice relationship since. He says, I didn't want any coach to tell me what to do. And that was obvious. But I said, Holly, you have to have a little bit of guidance and structure out there. He says, yeah, I know. But so I could have, and from my teaching background, there's lots of I think students that I had either at university and or in high school where I taught, that you had to be patient with them because they were different. And the ones that were different, you have to handle them in a certain way, and you have to always be the adult in the room. Mm-hmm. And at times I was too emotional and got upset and frustrated with them, and I could have handled it probably better and got better results. I remember Jimmy Pappin, God bless Jimmy, was working with him. He said, Mike, give Holly a couple of days off, just as throw him a bone. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, that's not right for the rest of the team. Then I'd have to do it for everybody. He says, no, this guy's different. You should do that to get him more on your side. And I didn't, but that's an example of people I could have handled better. And I'm not pleased with myself that I didn't.
Well, you handled enough people well that you worked in a lot of great places. You won a Stanley Cup. I believe you're the 15th most winning coach in NHL history. Obviously enough of those relationships and the coaching went well for you. I hear you say, talking about preparing players, you knew the tough guys were going to prepare themselves. Is that how you viewed your role in terms of pushing guys, was a preparation and making sure everyone was ready? Was that a priority of yours?
No, the priority was winning.
Yeah. And how did you get there?
And today the league's got 32 teams. So how do you, and back in our day, I went through periods of time through expansion and so on, but how do you get your team to be different? How do you get your team to separate themselves from the rest of the teams in the league? Because that's what it comes down to. You're all competitors. You're all trying to do the same thing. And some teams are more ready to win than others, and that's developmental and all that aspect. But how do you find a difference? And the difference is in preparation every night. So when I first started, it was 80-game schedule. So we had the youngest team in pro sport. We're not supposed to make the playoffs, win the President's Trophy, and go to the Stanley Cup Finals. And it was preparation. Just, young kids, Peter Zezel, God bless Peter, or Derek Smith, you mentioned. Kids are 18, 19, 20 years old. The oldest forwards were 26, Poulin, Prop, and Kerr. Howe was the oldest player on the team, with McCrimmon 28 and 29. So that's just an example of, I came into the league and said, to be in pro sport, the whole objective here is to win. And that's your profession. You've chosen a profession of in a competitive sport to win the toughest trophy in sport. And that's extremely difficult to do.
Coaches, players at the National Hockey League all have that feeling of wanting to win, but your style. I want to talk about your style and how you push the envelope in those relationships that you've just mentioned moments ago. Some moves or some things that you probably said or done you regretted. The one line in the book, Mike, that kind of stood out for me was predictably
Unpredictable. Yeah.
And like, is that something that you learned through the process of teaching? Is that something that is just subconsciously coming to fruition the moment you start coaching these kids to say, you come to the rink, you won 5 games in a row, I don't care. I'm not satisfied, or I'm going to keep you on your toes.
Well,
it's a long season for you to constantly be unpredictable. How did that begin?
Good question. And at different levels, like I'll refer to Forest Hill Collegiate. I didn't coach those kids like I coach pros. They're high school young men that enjoyed playing hockey in the Toronto Hockey League with the Toronto School Board, and they're students. But when you move in, and then I coach junior, and that's a little bit different. And then you coach major, junior, and they're now getting closer to being pros. They want to be pros. And then you start, I coach the American League. They're pros. That's their profession. Mm-hmm. And now they're at that level trying to step up to the big league and play in the NHL. When you get there, then you have to, I felt you had to provide an environment that would be something that was different every day. It was never complacent, never the same, could never be boring. You don't get people to respond, and the idea is to get better every day. And that's a tough assignment. That's a really tough assignment.
The one thing that you could do with the pros that you couldn't do with the students was threaten to trade them. You did that a lot. You did it in New York with Leach and Chelios. I know you Brendan Shanahan in St. Louis. You threatened to trade him to.
I'll back that little comment up a bit, because, again, it goes back to all the circumstances and the environment that you're in. The ownership in St. Louis were really strapped for money. And Shanny, Hull, and McGinnis were all making $3 million at the time. And the ownership come in and said, you must trade all 3 of them. I said, you're going to have a mess here with your fan base. They said, we don't care. We can't afford them. I said, well, I'm going to start with Brendan because he's the youngest and he's going to be the easiest to trade. I traded for Pronger, 7 years younger. So in the general manager's role, it looked like I had an issue with Brendan. I didn't have an issue with Brendan as a player. He was one of our best players. When we were in a Vancouver series, he broke his leg, and that was the reason we didn't win the series. But
they're vulnerable. The players are. You couldn't trade everybody. So what were you doing? Were you looking to see their reaction, how they handled the adversity of the threat? Like, what was the purpose behind it besides dealing with ownership?
That's an example. I didn't threaten them, but yeah, there were some others. The whole idea was to try to make them step up or buy in or adjust their game to fit more into the team that we were assembling and to play better. Mm-hmm. I mean, the structure, I don't know if you remember this, Nick, but with Brian, I said, Brian, this is the way we want to play, and you got the green light. You're an exceptional player. You go when the situation arises. But when we first started, I don't know if you would realize this or know it, but he would always, not always, but often be ahead of the play in the neutral zone. I said, Brian, you got to wait, and then you can go. And you understand? Yeah. So he did it. I said, Brian, no, let me review it with you again. We reviewed it. Do you understand? Yeah. Does it again. I said, Brian, one more time. Do you understand? You've got the green light. You're our best defenseman, one of the best in the league, but you have to be more patient and wait. Mm-hmm. But he was never held back or maybe taught that before. I don't know. So then I benched him and I said, when you're ready to play the way I'd like you to play, let me know. I don't know. Do you remember what happened? Yeah. So during the first period of the next game, he didn't say anything the rest of the game. He just sat there. After this, he said, I absolutely will. And as you know, a real strong leader with the group, but he wasn't afraid to go to any player and say, look, I'm going to assist you with your relationship with Mark, but you got to adjust your game a little bit too.
We're joined by Mike Keenan in studio. The book is called Iron Mike, My Life Behind the Bench with Scott Morrison. In the book, you also talk about, that leadership of Mark Messier, and specifically in the playoffs when he came to you and addressed the team's feelings.
Yes.
Where you were sympathetic enough to come and apologize to us. Is that the only time you've ever apologized to a team?
No, I think I've done that before, but it was important at that time. And I trusted Mark's relationship with me, obviously, but also with the team. He knew the needs of the team, and he had a finger on the pulse of the team. So that's important. I mean,
but you've tried that with.
I go back to your father's team with the Islanders. I mean, Dennis Potvin will tell you that Al Arbour was really tough on him.
Yeah, my dad.
Really tough on Dennis. Dennis is a superstar defenseman on the team, but I know Dennis well too because I was with him a lot when I was in Florida. He was a color guy, and he's a strong-minded individual, and it would be tough to get him to adjust his game. But Al was really a lot tougher on Dennis than I was on any of our players.
Can you share with Justin the meeting that you had with Glenn Healy when you called him in? And Glenn Healy was we're about to play the Islanders.
This is humorous. Yeah.
I'll tee it up for you. We're about to play the Islanders, and Glenn does a newspaper article in the Post talking about Al Arbour and what Al would do in certain games or situations.
Yeah.
So Iron Mike calls in Glenn Healy, and I'll let you take it from there.
So I said, so what's the difference between myself and Al? He said, Al's won 4 cups. You haven't won any.
Yeah.
Attaboy, Heel.
Yeah. That changes it a little bit, I suppose.
Get out. And then Heel says the next 2 words were, get out.
So
actually, that was witty on his behalf.
Yeah,
it was.
He was
sharp. He's sharp, as you know.
I
actually closed the door and started laughing.
Yeah.
So.
I do have questions, but you have such background with him, and I don't want to take it. If you have things you want to get to.
No.
All right. Well, I just want to know culturally, the evolution of being a coach has changed. The way that players are talked to, handled, whatever. What are your thoughts on where it's gone?
Well, I could say this, and this would be interesting for you to hear, but if you don't evolve with the generations, I coached in 5 different decades. Yeah. Not pro, but, I started with the high school teams, and if you don't make the adaptation, then you're out. I came to a point, I guess it's my own fault, but I could have coached 10 more years in the NHL for fun. Mm-hmm. But they lost confidence that I would be able to adjust. I proved that I could. I went to a foreign country and won a championship where nobody could speak English. But you make that adjustment, and then there's also the impact. When I first went to Philadelphia, the entire team made $2 million. The highest paid player was Markel at $250,000. He's a superstar. But I did coach Wayne and Mark when they were making the most money in the league. Wayne was probably near $7 million at the time,
and that's in the 90s.
But they were a different generation. Walter Gretzky, we used to ride with me when I was coaching Canada Cups. The practices, don't be treating my son differently. He's no different than the rest. I said, Mr. Gretzky's Wayne Gretzky. He is different.
Yeah.
But the generations change, and I'm going to make a comment that I've made in the last few days doing these tours, that Paul Maurice, who's a friend of mine, drove the notion with the Florida Panthers and reverted back a little bit to old school. And they were tough. They borderline staying out of the penalty box. But it was a solution to win the Stanley Cup in today's game. And I'm going to be very interested to see how many teams now make that shift. And they come out first game and they smoke Boston. And Boston's supposed to be a tough competitive team. It wasn't even close. So those generational changes, and the players like the guys on the fourth line are making, what, 700,000 now? 900,000? And then the big boys are making 11, 12 million. But it's a relationship. And you mentioned, I coached 50 Hall of Famers. And they were easy to coach. For the most part, easy to coach. What do they want? They want ice time. What do they want? A little bit of organization. But they also want to do their own thing. Right. They're talented.
You talk about evolving.
Yep.
Are we in agreement that if you coach today and did the things that you have during your career, you wouldn't last 5 minutes?
No, I'd last 3 minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Yeah. 2 minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
But would you have been smart enough to find different ways to reach the players without going to the places that probably you've regretted on a few occasions now?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm bright enough to figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it is, with the superstars in particular, managing them seems to be, you got to keep those guys happy. Superstars, where do you stand on treating people differently within your room? Because you'd mentioned Wayne Gretzky, you didn't want to treat him differently, or Brett Hull, you initially didn't want to treat him differently. Do you think you have to a little bit?
Well, my coaching style, and Nick can attest to this, is that, and I said the superstars were easy. You know why they were easy? All they wanted to do is get out in the ice.
Yeah, okay.
So I'd play them the most, to a point where sometimes I was criticized for overloading the stars and playing them so much. But if you play them like that, they'll respond. That's what they love. They want to get out in the ice and play.
One of the things that, being a part of a championship in New York or just in the NHL is my appreciation for how hard it is to win, Mike, and how many things have to come together and how the stars have to align in certain situations and where that fine line was. We had Paul Maurice talking about Game 7 where the puck is crossing the goal line 1 second and the next, they go down and score a goal, and that's the difference of winning and losing. And we felt that probably with
Nathan in Game 7.
Lafayette's
yeah.
goal post against the Vancouver Canucks. But, man, is it hard.
Well, Rangers now are 1 in 84 years. The Maple Leafs, which is in this market, is currently facing 1967.
Mm-hmm.
So it is difficult, and particularly becoming more difficult. They call the word or make the comment of parity amongst the group, amongst the teams now. You have to, again, I make the comment and the criticism I have had in the past and through my career is that you have to find a difference amongst your team, amongst your players. You have to somehow separate yourself from the rest of the league. And then everything after that still has to be aligned. So it's the most difficult trophy in sport, in my opinion, to win.
And you won that and the Gagarin Cup. Only guy to ever do so.
Actually, I think one other now is Bob Hartley.
Oh, yeah?
I think he won after I did. Yeah.
2 guys ever.
It's a difficult trophy to win. People don't understand.
Obviously, we're all maybe gone on now, but would you, in a perfect world, still like the challenge of finding ways to win today with today's players? Is it harder for coaches now? Because again, the feeling is that, generally as a society, I think we are all probably a little bit more sensitive to a lot of things. And, would you find it enjoyable to coach today under the circumstances and the things that you couldn't get away with?
I would tell you this is a difference maker or an explanation for that. When I was young and watching hockey, and there were 6 teams, and then you had the Montreal. Scotty Bowman was no angel. I mean,
ask his ex-players, right?
Yeah, so when I was coaching, that comment was, well, these players are a little bit more sensitive than the old Montreal Toronto Maple Leafs original 6. Well, they were.
Yeah.
So it's ongoing evolution of now the next generation is a little bit more sensitive and so on. So I bring up your father's coach, Al Arbor. He had to make adjustments along the way, as well as the sensitivity, if you like, of the group becomes more apparent. But it also is a reflection of the leadership amongst the team and the group, and also the people that they acquired. Al acquired these young players called the Sutters. Mm-hmm. Well, they were old school. They were new generation, but old school thinking from their family, from their father. So it depends on your upbringing as well.
Speaking of family, in the book, you talk about your dad.
Yeah.
And how he was supposed to come down for a week and ended up 6 weeks with you during their Stanley Cup run.
Yeah.
And, how many of us had to babysit Ted a little bit in the dressing room.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, we really enjoyed having your dad around. And, to the point we were so comfortable with Ted, Glenn Healy would say, how are you so nice and your dad's a dink?
Glenn Healy,
yeah. It's a bit of a good luck charm for us.
Yeah. That was during the 94 run. He was actually in the room and all that around. That's great.
Yeah. One last one, too, is, again, bit of an intimidating factor having you around in 94, but also with Coley Campbell and Dick Todd there, and how if Mike wanted to go get advice on who would start a game, Mike didn't want Coley or Dick influencing each other on who should start first, so he had him write down on a piece of paper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's an effective way to go about it.
Well, we also, I don't know if you remember this, we did a commercial, but it was live. So I said, Coley, who do you want to start in goal tonight? He said, Healy. I said, Dick. Healy. I said, good. Richter starting.
He goes, it's unanimous. Richter starting.
Yeah. That's great.
Well, listen, we really appreciate your time in coming in. Good luck with the book.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I know you wrote a book, and it's an arduous task at times.
Yeah, but it's been fascinating.
I appreciate it.
Some good, some bad, some ugly, but at the end of the day, it's your story.
That's life in a nutshell.
And that's it. Looking forward to it. Available now at all bookstores. Iron Mike. My Life Behind the Bench.
Probably online, too.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yep.
Anywhere you get your book with Scott Morrison. It's a great read. Enjoy it. Okay, back after these words. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Final segment here on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. So what did we have last night, guys? We had 5 NHL games. We had 36 goals. Yet 3 teams get shut out.
That is truly bonkers. A bonkers scoreboard last night. Yesterday, Sam was talking about Rangers Pittsburgh, and I was like, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Sports stuff to bet on.
Did the Winnipeg Jets just go, like, nobody talked about us? Like we're making a statement.
Isn't that to you about the Oilers? Oilers at home. It's a statement unto itself a little bit, isn't it? I did.
But hey, listen, I all but wrote them off last year with their start. I'm not even gonna think about going down that path.
Right, but it is bizarre that 2 years in a row they come out and absolutely pee down their legs.
I thought I was watching the game, and the play-by-play guy, Jack Michaels, said he's like, "This isn't exactly a homecoming opponent here with the Jets. It's like
Right.
they had 110 points last year. Like and I thought it's a good point. Like they are kind of slept on big time, and they've got good players throughout their lineup. That like they're going to be
They
another.
lost 6-0, Sam.
I'm talking about the Jets.
I know the Jets are, sure.
Yeah.
But the point that the Jets are a good team, fine.
They are good.
You could be the best team in the
Oilers
league.
stunk.
6-0 after you went to game
Listen,
7 of
when-
the Cup final.
Oh, they're stunk.
When I saw Evan Bouchard handle the puck like a grenade and then give up the breakaway to Scheifele,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Not sharp.
this could be
Yeah.
a tough task. I wasn't expecting 6 Cobb.
And like I made like Skinner, like should he get Vezina vote?
But
I'm not saying all these preseason predictions
they
are
just had their
It's just
way.
like what the
The
hell was that?
coverage, the giveaways.
What the hell was that?
I don't,
Not locked in by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
Quickly, boys, we're going to do game time here before we get into more stuff, all right? So it's game time. Presented by Bet.
game time.
It's game time. God, Derek. It's game time. Presented by Bet365.
always cuts you off at the knees, eh?
Visit the app for the latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. He's doing it on purpose now because he knows it.
Just throws you off.
He knows. Montreal Canadiens in Boston tonight. Montreal in the second half of back-to-back. Massive underdogs for the Boston Bruins, plus 240. The Boston Bruins are minus 300. They obviously think the Boston Bruins are going to get back on track after getting smoked. Mason Lohrei sitting tonight. Mason Lohrei.
You guys were killing him.
No, we
game
didn't
one.
kill him.
He was
Not
awful.
on air, you didn't.
He was awful.
I know he was awful,
Our
but
group
come
chat
on.
was alive with the talk of Mason Lohrei.
It's okay to say on one particular
Yeah, he
night
stunk
a
that
guy
night.
stunk.
Guys have bad games.
There might have been something
It's
about
okay.
This was
There might have been
terrible.
something about clearing waivers in that group chat. I'm not sure what there was. Anyways, and the other one I wanted to bring up, the Utah Hockey Club plays their first road game of the season. They're going to play against Bourne's Islanders. They're plus 130 underdogs. The Islanders are minus 155 on home ice. What are you expecting from your Islanders this year, Bourne?
Well, Patrick Waugh came in and made them a better hockey team last year.
No question.
So I would say, they got into playoffs last year, just over 90-some points. A 95 6-point team. Sorokin, potential Vezina candidate. Barzal has a career year.
So very Islandery.
Very Islander.
Do we not think like
Make it hard on someone in the first round.
Okay.
like this is a make or break for Lou Lamoriello holding on to that position?
Buddy, the Engvall thing has sparked more Lamoriello chat in my phone than anything ever has before. It's like, what
This is
was
all your-
It was the weirdest contract
Everyone's just like,
in
what
NHL
happened
history.
there?
I don't know.
That is the conclusion of every chat so far.
Yeah.
No idea.
He looked, you know what it is? Pre-Moneyball, before they come in, they say they care about how a guy looks or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, Engvall, he's got a hot girlfriend. Like, he must have confidence. It's like, that was
Look
the
at-
assessment on Engvall. He's 6'5", skates ice win. He looks like Greek god. Give him money.
Look at those shoulders. Here's
must
7
be
years.
good.
Yeah. And the last one I'll bring up, my goal scoring parlay, tough one last night. The biggest odds, Jake DeBrusk scored for me, but Matthews couldn't put one in the net. Draisaitl couldn't put one in the net. Tonight, I'm going with Macklin Celebrini in his NHL debut on home ice against the St. Louis Blues, an anytime goal at plus 260.
By the way, the Bruins being minus 300 is wild.
Yeah, it's too much, but they're probably going to win.
Oh, they're winning.
Yeah.
They're winning for sure.
So, yeah, give me a Macklin Celebrini anytime goal tonight against the St. Louis Blues. And that was Game
Okay.
Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds. Find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Last night, Vancouver and Calgary.
What a game.
Oh, my God.
It looked like Vancouver
That's fun
was
hockey.
in control. A great start, a 4-1 lead, vanishes. Now, I don't know. I'm a little more nervous with Demko nowhere to be found.
What stinks is, like, if he plays, they win that game. Like, not that Sheldon is terrible or anything, but, like, he makes one more save.
The things I noticed, feels like Stolarz in the playoffs last year and early, tracking the puck from the point seems like a bit of a buckaboo of his.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like they get through a lot on him. Not sure what it is about him, but he just feels like they get through a lot on him. Love the tying goal by
Listen,
JT Miller, though.
We had a
Hammer time.
pretty in-depth conversation about goalies yesterday. And, Shelovs has had a great finish to his season last year, taking over for Demko. But there's something to be said about coming in and with zero expectations and now
Yeah.
coming in and knowing that you have to be the man now. That
Yeah.
is a game changer for some guys who make this their profession in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
Perfect example here in Toronto. Samsonov last year. Remember the year before it was Murray that was starting, and Samsonov was kind of the guy that came in and saved him a bit. And then last year, Samsonov comes in as a starting goalie, and it wasn't good.
I think last night was at least partially about Calgary, not just Vancouver. I don't know if you heard any of the interviews after the game, but Zari and Mantha and these guys
What
were
a
like,
finish he had on the overtime.
yeah, I mean, great goal. Mantha, by the way, showed flashes of the guy that makes everyone salivate. Great backhand, gentle hands at that size. You know, fights Miller, and Miller didn't get hit with one, but Mantha swung Gordie Howe hat trick. So those guys were like, no one believes in us, and the predictions think we're any good. I think every guy believes in this room. We're standing up for each other. So Calgary got some fight left in them, which I think is good. Vancouver, you know, we're not going to say it's part of a greater trend. It's one hockey game, but disappointing to let that slip away.
I did manage to flip over and caught a little bit of the Rangers and Pittsburgh.
I'll be honest, I didn't see any of that. I saw the highlights, but
the building was empty with about, I don't know, half a period to go in the third. I don't know. Like, this is a very proud sports market, and I don't know how they're going to handle if Pittsburgh might be as bad as they portrayed as early as game one.
How can they be bad? Like, really bad? Like, I just don't see it with that roster. I know, I won't even say.
Well, the goalie stunk last night.
Yeah, but he's not a
which makes
stinky
the
goalie.
defense look stinky.
Right.
Or is it the stinky defense that makes the goalie look stinky? Which one is it?
I don't know, but I like some of their D-men. Like, Letang and Carlson, Ryan Graves I like. Like, they got some guys who can play D.
Nice start for Gino. -3.
Was he?
Yeah. Carlson -2.
Both those guys are bad. They're in real trouble.
Yeah.
At least if we're talking about the
Sid's playing with O'Connor.
Washington, where do you guys have Washington compared to Pitt?
So similar.
I had them below Pitt.
You do?
I do.
I think
I'll stick with it. I'm not going to change.
They did make some.
They have good additions. They got Chikrin and Matt Roy on the back end. Really makes their defense better, for sure. They got PLD, so maybe Dubois gives them something. They got better, but let's not mince words. They were brutal last year. They're a -37 goal differential last season. The Capitals.
And made the playoffs somehow.
And made the playoffs and looked like they deserved to, which is terrible. So they're a lot better than -37. Maybe they're an even team.
Yeah.
Don't like them. I think Pittsburgh's a little better.
Did you guys mention Swayman getting the nod tonight?
Didn't mention it yet, no.
And too early? Or are you okay with it?
What's he been doing?
I don't know. He's been University of Maine hanging out.
Is that right, Maine?
Yeah, in the cafeteria. I don't know.
Just eating chicken tenders and lobster in Maine? What else do you do on campus?
Well, I think if you're going to pay him, how much do you end up getting? 8.25?
Yeah, 66.
You'd like him to be able to start the home opener against a much worse team, a historic rival.
Yeah, you trust the guys are in shape. He's obviously been taking shots.
Yeah, you need him to start the game tonight. But you'd hope a couple early don't go in.
They were brutal against Florida. So I actually think Montreal's going to take a licking tonight. Back-to-back for the Habs, coming down off a high of beating Toronto. You know, Boston looking to get their pound of flesh after a loss. I think this is a pretty lopsided affair.
And the Habs were quite bad in long stretches of that game last night. We're turning the puck over. And so that could not be great for them. Did you see the clip of Linus Ullmark, Kyper?
I did not.
So they're playing tonight.
I think he's a Linus.
Is it? What did I say?
You're Linus.
What did I say? Linus?
Linus.
Linus?
What do you think? He's got a blanket carrying around him?
That's a dated reference, but I get it because I'm
is
old too.
Is that Charlie Brown?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I got that. Yeah. Anyways.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. Anyways, he talked about the start of the season and what it's like at the start of the season in one of the weirdest clips I've ever heard. So would you like to hear him talking about the start of the season? Linus Ullmark?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear it. Ullmark clip on the start of the season.
Well, we can wait for that and discuss.
Oh, you built it up. I'm like,
oh, no Ullmark clip.
Okay.
All right.
That was my fault.
okay.
Here's what he says. He says,
We just put it in there.
oh, you did?
Yeah.
You can
I can do it right now.
science.
I always see beginning of the season as someone that's from the north and have been around a lot of farm animals. You know, when they let out cows in the beginning of spring, that's kind of like how I see ourselves now. We're just going to go out there, jump a little bit more, jump in our steps and running around. Hopefully we can calm it down and, you know, use our brains and keep ourselves to the game plan and bring a 60-minute game.
You know what he means with the cows in the springtime?
In the north?
In the north. The way they jump around, but they need to rein it in?
I hyped it up being weird. And I don't think I hyped it up enough by the look at Kyper's face.
That's a lot to digest.
Can we have that one more time, Derek?
Yes.
Yeah, one more time.
I always see the beginning of the season as someone that's from the north and have been around a lot of farm animals. You know, when they let out cows in the beginning of spring, that's kind of like how I see ourselves now. We're just going to go out there, jump a little bit more, jump in our steps and running around. Hopefully we can calm it down and, you know, use our brains and keep ourselves to the game plan and bring a 60-minute game.
The universe is like humongous big. Thanks to Linus Brizgalov for that diatribe.
It's really too bad the Leafs have the milk, endorsement.
They're Oreo now.
Ottawa should have it.
Yeah.
No, the Leafs
they're
the Leafs are milk
Oreo,
and Oreo,
which is really
they're
cute.
milk and cookies.
Yeah.
So
that was really weird.
I like it though. Let it go, son.
We're all farmers out there. You know the way cows react to the
funny
spring.
thing is to say that,
right?
Like, you guys know what I mean.
No. You're from the West. You wouldn't have any idea what's going on here to start the season.
Yeah.
Who's from the North? Yes. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Ian Mendez is from the north. You got to know
This guy knows.
But big game for them tonight.
Yeah.
You know, they're starting their season on home ice.
I got something for you.
Who's coming to town?
I got
Brother
some.
Matthew and the Panthers.
Yeah, what
So.
a tough start. They got the Sens, got Florida right out of the gate. So I'm going on the television after this. I'm actually on in 40 minutes in a suit. And one of the things I'm going to talk about is the Senators and their starts and how they need better starts. 20 games into the season, going back 5 years.
Yeah, it was over.
Over. Like,
Over.
Here's their rank in the Eastern Conference the last 5 seasons. 15th after 20 games. 15th, 7th, 16th, 16th, 16th. 3 straight years they've been dead last. The year they were 7th, that was the North Division year, COVID, weird year. So, wow. Yeah. You know, 7th, so they were 7th in the division. So really they've been dead last for 4 straight years.
Wow.
Listen,
So you just need a better start.
between Ottawa
500.
and Buffalo, Detroit, like there's a ton of pressure on these 3 clubs.
A lot of talk about every year. You know, this year, the Atlantic, they kind of make that change. So what has to happen then for me is Jake Sanderson needs to become a star. Stützle needs to take a step. You need like the top end guys to be the top end guys on Toronto and Boston and Florida, like elite players to drive the bus for them. So we'll see what kind of start they have. Tough draw getting Florida out of the gates, but maybe that'll just make them a little bit sharper playing against such a good team to start.
They could use a few more saves from Ullmark, too. Would probably help a lot.
Ullmark being good would really help.
Like the North cows out of the barn.
Yeah.
That's what they need from
You
him.
need him to be a barn cow. What else we got? We got Stamkos tonight. Sorry.
Just Boone Jenner out
Yeah.
most of the season now.
Waddell mentioned that he may be able to return later in the season, I think. So, yeah, I think he may be back later in the season. But, yeah, the surgery or something.
Yeah.
Okay, like, man, oh man, I feel for this hockey club.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, they signed Van Riemsdyk at the end of summer. He's in their top 6. They signed LeBanc out of on a PTO. I think he's top 6 for them. And then it's Chinnikov, Monahan, Marchenko as their top line.
Mm-hmm.
Van Riemsdyk, Fantilli, LeBlanc, and then Michael Pythia. Anyway, you guys know where I'm going from there.
They should go get like Phil Kessel.
Phil Kessel is actually headlining a poker event.
I know.
this
I
week.
saw that.
Yes, the World Poker Tour.
Yes.
I mean, we tried the Phil Kessel thing last year.
Who's we?
The Canucks.
Yeah. He went.
They
out
brought
in
him
the
there and he
American
couldn't.
League and-
He was huffing. He couldn't.
But that's a deeper team than what Columbus is
Well,
going through now.
Kyper, he couldn't skate with the Abbotsford guys. Like he was sucking wind after 10 minutes.
It'd be a long fitness. Maybe.
There's a reason he's not.
Listen.
I love Phil Kessel. One of my favorite Leafs ever. Big Phil Kessel guy. Awesome career.
All right. I just threw it out there because I know he was playing poker.
He's the man. Love Phil. I just think it might be over for Phil.
Yeah.
But to your point, Columbus is going to have to get creative about waiver claims, perhaps some transactions. One thing I will say, I really dislike when teams just kind of go, we're hoping to get a high pick, so we're just going to just play the year out. You still have to compete. You still have fans. You still have players on your team that are young who deserve teammates that can play. I think they need to make some moves. They're still going to finish bottom 5 if they traded for 5 good players.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see them not just be complacent here.
Hurricanes and Lightning postponed.
It was the Wyshynski tweet on that?
Yeah. Wyshynski, give him credit. Great tweet. Hurricanes and Lightning postponed due to hurricanes and lightning.
Yeah.
So quite good.
It's good.
See the roof of the Tropicana field?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Looked like paper mache on the field.
Oh my gosh.
Ripped up.
Yeah.
So
thoughts with everyone in Florida dealing with back-to-back hurricanes and obviously the south
in
general
yeah.
there.
You want a quick read off of a giveaway? Rogers giveaway?
Sure. I can do that for you. You
pay the bills, Sammy.
Put me on the spot here.
Pay the bills.
All right. Well, I had no time to practice this in the mirror. This is a cold read. Wasn't expecting to do it. So here we go. The NHL is back. You can catch all the action this season, all season long, on Sportsnet, Sportsnet Plus, and the Sportsnet Radio Network. To celebrate the start of the new season, Rogers is giving away hundreds of prizes through a national Rogers Beyond the Seat contest, including the grand prize of a chance to win any a chance to win a trip to any NHL game this season. To enter for your chance to win, head to Rogers.com/NHL. Contest closes on October 25th.
You know why I did that? Because it was your birthday yesterday and you didn't mention it. You didn't mention it to
Sammy.
us.
No, I know. You should just know that, kid.
Happy belated birthday, Sammy.
Thanks,
young
man.
guy.
Thanks.
All right.
What a milestone.
Our thanks to Mike Keenan in studio. 9 games on tap. Find yours. And we're back tomorrow to discuss them all. Have a great night, everybody.